Blah blah blah. Where's James? James, why are you dismissed? There's E
We're
and
here.
there's. I'm not doing anything. You're the one
I
I want.
know, but I was doing the directing, and then you decided to mess up the idea I had in my head. See, I had you full screen. You were going to say, "Hey, this is Pugs Parker, proud present Pillow Talk," and then I clicked this one screen and this one button, and then we
Hey,
popped up.
Joe. Welcome into Pugs and Parker with E for this Monday eating. Man, am I close to the camera? Let me back that up a little bit. All right, let's bring in James. No,
And I just bring in both.
James and E. You brought in both at the same time.
I like the closer camera. You just got to get used to it, bro. I have a camera that it feels like it's 8 inches in front of my face. It's probably more like 2 feet, but it feels so close, and it is very bothersome at first. But you get used to it quick. But get used to it. This looks good. It looks better.
But I don't. So that's why you should get used to it, because I don't see a reason to get used to it, because I don't like it. I don't think it looks bad. I don't know. I don't know. E, what do you think? He's pretty much the style maker around here, as you can tell from his background. What closer up camera? Yeah, closer up, or like
I think as you get older, the further away the camera is, the better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this looks kind of
Well,
perfect.
that's your insecurities talking. Then it's better.
No, I have no insecurity. I'm thinking for the audience's sake.
Why is this better? Why is this better?
Okay, because for one thing, there's less wasted space. The whole point of the little square of real estate that you take up on this screen is to present your face, not all this other crap around you in your walk-in closet. So when you back up, plus,
so says you. I mean, why is that? Why does your vision have to be my vision? I'm trying to create an ambiance here. I'm trying to create a whole vibe.
Well, for me, whether you're in standard definition, HD, 4K, whatever, every pixel makes a difference. And when you're closer, there are these nonverbal cues that come up through facial expressions and sort of eye gestures,
okay, true,
all kinds of things that makes whatever story you're telling a little more connective, a little more powerful, and a little more easily seen, because a lot of this is seen on small devices. A lot of people are watching on phones right now. So this is a lot better than this.
So you say, Eat, you're playing with a puck over there. What's going on in your box?
I was just checking out my camera angle, seeing when the puck would start to obstruct the angle.
Cool.
Are you showing us how you got an NHL puck? It just happens to have the.
No, I'm trying to figure out where the center comes to the.
Is that a real hockey puck? Like, is that like?
Yeah, that's a real hockey puck.
Emil, where did you get yourself an official NHL hocky puck?
It's a real hockey puck.
Did
It's
it come over the glass?
Very old.
Yes. Land in your nachos?
Yeah, came over the glass. Years and years. I mean, this is probably like 10 years, 15. I don't know. It's old.
That's his passive aggressive way of telling us he's been sitting ice side for decades.
No.
Yes, it is.
No, I mean the logo's worn off is what I'm trying to show you.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. I'm just telling you how it's perceived.
It's like,
all right, fellas. How are you tonight? James, what do you have? You got anything out of the box here? You always come loaded for bear after a long weekend. Did you have a good weekend, first of all?
I had a kind of a good weekend. My wife was out of town all weekend, so I had all 4 kiddos by myself, which I kind of like. For some people, I don't know. I'm starting.
Easy, isn't it? I mean, it's made up to be like this crazy difficult thing. You probably not a problem at all.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm starting to get offended by people who act like it's a big deal. And the example I have is we were just out running errands. It was on Friday, I think, maybe even Saturday. No, it was Friday. And we stopped by AutoZone because I had to get some refrigerant for my air conditioner in my truck and a couple other things. They didn't have my air filter, bitches. God. But I have 4 kids with me, and I have to corral them, and it takes a little bit of effort, and so I have to talk to
Sure.
all of them at all times. Atticus, put that down, get back over here. So, but I'm just kind of old pro, and it's second nature. And I just, when you're in auto zone, it's different because it's all dudes in there pretty much. And there was this older dude that was watching me from the front, just hanging out with the kiddos, and they're asking stupid questions. And I'm making little jokes, and then we all laugh. And I forget that people don't see this a lot because you know what? I don't see it a lot. I don't see some dude walking around, some dad walking around with 4 of his kids. I'm not saying it never happens, but it is kind of rare, right? And I forget that when I'm in the moment. And so this guy said to me when I got up to the front and I checked out, he was like, "You babysitting today?" I was like, "No." Like, where do they even come from? He goes, "All these kids with you?" I was like, "Yeah, but they're mine," right? Like, it's not babysitting if they're mine. And like, he was actually complimenting me, so I didn't take offense to it. But I do kind of take offense and kind of have a little pushback to the people who act like I'm babysitting when it's my kids.
Those are just old traditional gender roles. You're the guy. You're not supposed to be actually a caregiver. That's the woman's work. I want to address what I said in the beginning. I was kind of kidding tongue in cheek when I said, 4 of them, that was easy, right? Easy work. Truth of the matter is that, there's a lot. It's difficult. I think the stakes might be higher if you are the primary caregiver of, like, say, 4 kids all the time. Like, that's your primary gig. You wake up in the morning and you are responsible for getting their lunch, for answering to their teachers, all that stuff. That's a bad gig. It's a rewarding gig and it's a difficult gig, but it ain't as hard as working road construction. It ain't as hard as going to work in an accounting firm where you're not respected and your boss is a prick and everybody's a joke. This idea, I would so much rather have that lot in life, like where, okay, you're just going to stay home with your 4 kids every day instead of going out and doing battle like the barbarians that we are. And he looks like he's jumping at that. You got pushback on that?
Well, I'm going back to where he said, I think when he said, "Hey, are you babysitting for the day?" I think that's not reflective of you as a parent. I think it's the amount of kids that you had around you. He wasn't necessarily buying they were all your kids.
Yeah, it's weird to see.
Like, I don't get a, "Hey, am I babysitting for the day when I'm alone with Dominic?"
No, you get your grandson sure is cute.
Possibly, or your daughter.
No, not your daughter.
Or your granddaughter, because he's got long hair.
James, also, it's odd to see a white man of your age with so many kids. That's a weird thing. Like, like Hispanic families are really big. You see that a lot here in Texas. But I think it would be very rare to see like a couple of your wife and your age with the kids that you have of your skin complexion.
Yeah,
maybe that's why people are noticing.
Yeah, it's much less rare out here in Bug Tussle. We tend to be a religious folk who want to outbreed the non-believers, and I'm just doing my part.
You are, of all my friends, and I have a lot of friends all over the country. You have more kid by one than my next largest, and all my friends have kids, but they've all got like 2, maybe 3. I mean, you with the 4, you are setting the pace.
I'm not that far separated though. Like, my wife's mom is one of 8 kids, and her parents are immigrants. So it's not that too distant. And like my grandfather, he had 5 different kids. It was 3 women.
Look, my grandfather and grandmother were Irish Catholic. They both had 15 brothers and sisters, and that's not even an exaggeration. It's a number like that. I don't even know because they lost track. But so I understand that, but that hasn't been a thing in 40 years. That hasn't been a thing in 3 generational cohorts. That's an old school way of thinking. So it's just rare when you see a middle-class white 40-something couple with a whole bunch of kids. They typically, even if you look at the numbers, the national averages, they stop at 2.
Yeah, well, for the families that do have them, it's out here in Bug Tussle. We like having a whole bunch of kids. We think every child's a blessing from God, and we got to keep them numbers up, Pugs.
Sure, yeah.
What? No, I mean, I'm saying I think people in Bug Tussle probably do have more children than people in the city. I think it's probably easier.
Of your friends, what's the most amount of kids of the friends that you have off the top of your head? Of kids in Dominic's class, who's got the most brothers and sisters? I'm telling you, it's typically 2 or 3.
Yeah, 3.
I mean, like 4 is a lot. 5 is unheard of. It's like, Now, what you do see a lot of times with these people is you'll see 3, but with a great age difference. Like you'll see 2 that are 10 years older because the third was sort of a mistake, and they were like, uh-oh, and then they got the third. But
I think that has to do with cost of living, though. I mean, I think entirely different in Bug Tussle versus like Dallas.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to afford a family down here. Young.
I'm not saying it's that much easier, but I think space is easier to come by.
No, you're absolutely. Yeah. I think you're righter than you give yourself credit for.
Well, when we're making a direct comparison to Highland Park and Bug Tussle, are you saying you think people in Highland Park have difficulty supporting their children? I don't. I think
I'm saying
I think if any community was going to have a lot of kids, it might be Highland Park.
No. The average person would be able to start a family easier in Bug Tussle than Highland Park, is what I'm saying. The other demographic change is out here. People have kids a lot younger. I just turned 46 last month, and I have many of my high school friends that are grandparents. Many.
Wow.
Many.
I'm off the top of my head, I don't think I have any, and I don't want to investigate. I don't want to be proven wrong.
My grandmother is from she's from Jacksonville, which is like 11 miles that way. She had her first kid when she was 18, my mom. And then my mom had my sister, her first kid, when she was 18. And so my grandmother became a grandmother when she was like 37 or something ridiculously young like that. 30, maybe 38. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that
is ridiculously young to be a grandma.
It's really cool though on this side of it, because I have some friends whose kids are now grown, and whether they have whether they have grandkids or not, some of their kids are already out of their house, so they're like our age and just done with all that and just partying.
Don't you think
so hard?
Don't you think they're getting ripped off having a grandma that's only 38?
No, man, I had a grandma my grandma was 40 when I was born. And so,
yeah, but I mean, 38 doesn't have grandma stripes.
Nope. No. 38 has grandma stripes because you're not really coherent and hanging out with her on that level until she's more like 45, 46.
No, you're dealing with a grandma that's really off the rails at 38.
38 has party aunt stripes, not grandma stripes. Your aunt who parties with you is 38. Your grandma's in her 60s minimum.
So,
I mean, she's not really your grandma. She's just a cool mom.
So
at 38.
Okay, out here in Bug Tussle, my grandma was also my 7th grade reading teacher, because she was everybody's 7th grade reading teacher, because we only had one 7th grade reading teacher, right? So when you have young grandma like that who is so wrapped up into your life, and like I hung out with her every day after school because she was a teacher, I would go home with her until my mom got off work. Like when I'm 12, she's 52. We went out to Hastings. We rented all 3 Godfathers, and we watched them all in one Saturday. Right? If your grandma is like geriatric, like 86, she's not going to want to watch all 3 of something that's still culturally relevant. Like no one else's grandmother did that if they were an octogenarian at that point, right?
Man, I disagree with you. I used to hang out. I used to go to the movies all the time with my grandma. Now, I don't know how old my grandma. I have to think about this. I have to think about how old my grandma was.
How old? What year was she born? And what year were you born?
So my grandma was like 50, I guess, when I was born. So my grandma was 50 when I was born. So by the time I was going to movies with my grandma, like we used to go to the mall and stuff. So she's 62. When she took me to see Mel Brooks' History of the World, and all she would say is, "There's a lot of boobs in this movie." She kept saying that to me. I was 12. Yeah. So she was like 60 something, and me and my grandma watching the booby Mel Brooks' History of the World movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. My grandma, I don't know. I used to watch TV with her. I don't know.
But 50 being
I spent a lot more time with my grandparents.
You're not a grandparent at 50.
No.
You're barely a dad at 50.
No. Yeah. Well.
An amel? You too? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, hell. I got no shot at grandparents.
Oh, of course you do. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? First of all,
next week. Come on.
you could be a grandpa in
I mean,
15 years.
it's gonna be nip and tuck.
No, it's not. You're gonna be fine. Jeez, you're gonna be
Dude,
fine.
you will probably be a grandpa in 10 years, and you will be here in 10 years. You ain't gonna die in 10 years.
It's gonna be close.
It's gonna go. Really? You got plans?
I'm getting to 70.
Doing a lot of
You know,
uppers.
you start. I mean, you can't. I don't really think you can take any day for granted, but most specifically when you get into the sixes, you just, you know, you're on the slide. There's no denying it.
All right. We're gonna bury you in that puka shell necklace you're wearing right now. just so you know. What is that? Is that a puka shell necklace you got on, Grandpa? 60 years old.
Where?
You are the worst millionaire ever.
What is that?
Stop.
Well, it's just a chain.
All right. It looked like puka shells. I don't
Okay.
know. You have a very youthful appearance, is what I'm saying. Don't you worry about getting too old, James.
All right, before we get into like the trending stories of the day, there was a update to something I had mentioned last week that came to fruition over the weekend. I had mentioned that I had to sit down with the filmmakers who are putting together the documentary story of Being Becky. It's the story of Rebecca Pratt, formerly known as John Osterlin. And man, I'm glad I did it. I needed to do it. It's going to be a good show, but the process was really just like getting punched in the gut. You know, not punched in the face, like punched in the gut, like just kind of hard to breathe and like emotional and like, you know, and I'm not a guy that has
Emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You're dead inside and whatnot.
right. So I was just telling you about that last week and letting you know it came to pass, and I thought it went really well. And I think there's going to be some footage from this broadcast that's going to end up being included because there was a great segment that we didn't record in any other process of putting this together, where Becky was updating us on her dating life. And remember when she talked about she went on a date the night before and came on the next day and we were like, tell us about your date last night. And it was kind of a fun little, I mean, it had the Chuck Woolery feel to it, but there was this other complexity that was made it far more interesting than a love connection. But I think some of that footage is going to be included. I think some of the footage on other visits that she did on the show may be at least B-roll in there. And then I think something that's definitely going to be included is when Becky and I co-hosted and we filled in for Walter Sterling on Sunday, because in our research, that would be trans history. She would be the first trans host of a nationally syndicated radio show. And we can't find anyone who beat us to that.
That's a thing.
And so for some reason, that feels really important that, you know, when your friend passes away at 55, I mean, was this all for nothing, or is there anything, is that it? You know, just you die and there's some crap hanging on my wall, like right here, and then they just go away. It's like, well, no, look, can we put a marker on something? Can we just put a thumbtack on the map and give us a reason to remember Rebecca / John Osterlin? Yeah.
I thought we agreed that that's not trans.
We didn't agree to that.
Without organ change.
No, we didn't agree to that. I know. I think we agreed that Rebecca was quite clear about what she saw herself as, and that's what we're clear about. Now, I know that you've stumbled across posthumously since her passing an inability to speak for herself. You seem to have stumbled across a new definition, so I don't know.
No, and look, this is fine. This is something that comes up quite a bit. And if you say this to a trans person, they're not even going to get offended because they've had this conversation 6,000 times. And whether or not they've had a scalpel go to their undercarriage, they still look in the mirror and they don't like the gender that they were born with. They still look down at their junk and they wish they had the other. They still look longingly at the opposite side of the sexual spectrum and think that they may be more comfortable if they were able to journey over there a little bit. Go ahead.
What is the difference between me going to the mirror and going, God, I wish I were George Clooney?
Because you don't need surgery for that.
Because that's just called envy.
Yeah,
that's not really.
What? How is it not female envy when you're a dude and you wish you were a chick?
Because that has to do with your gender identity and how you view yourself, and that kind of thing. You wanting to look like
I
George
view
Clooney
myself as ugly. I want to look like George Clooney, who's beautiful.
Well, depending
you and George Clooney are the same gender, so it's not a big deal.
And depending on how much that tortures you, that might be a whole different other kind of mental issue that you'd have to deal with. But
But I'm projecting my mind into what it would be like to be in George Clooney, which essentially is the same projection that's necessary in order for you to figure out what it's like to be a girl when you're a guy. You don't have any clue.
Pugs, he's not being that silly because there's an adjacent community of people who do wish that they looked like a specific person. And so you've seen these people that pop up on the Daily Mirror or the UK Sun, or for some reason the Brits are really into this. Like people who've had like 28 facial reconstructions so they look like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, or like the Michael Jackson people used to exist, and there's people who want to look like Barbie.
Yeah, there's a few of those, right? And so that, like, yeah, there's
those people have a mental disability. There is something going on there.
But
why is that a mental disability? Because you want to change your junk. It's not.
It's a mental condition. I wouldn't say either one's a disability, but you have something going on in your head, that is deviates from the norm, that causes certain issues that most people don't have to deal with. And as long as it's a benevolent form of body dysphoria, I don't think it's necessarily, what's the word, like a pathogen? Not a pathogen. I don't know. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's just a condition. It's like you're diabetic. Doesn't make you bad. You just can't eat sugar.
But it's not body dysmorphia.
Very much body dysmorphia, and that's the right term. So
you want to change your genitals.
So people who want to have plastic surgery so they look like a Ken doll have body dysmorphia. People who want to change their genitals have body dysmorphia, and so there's a spectrum, and it's very similar. The fact that you look in the mirror and you're not happy with yourself is sort of the beginning of that.
What about guys who just want to make their junk bigger? Well, what about that? Is that body dysmorphia? Because that I imagine there's a lot of dudes that fall into that category.
We call that Parker envy, and it's in the book. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is body dysmorphia bodybuilding?
Yeah, probably.
There are forms of body dysmorphia that show up with bodybuilders, but it's not
anorexia.
Anorexia is the body dysmorphia. Hell yeah. So
bulimia. I'm just making up things now.
There's a weird brand of bodybuilders who, instead of working out, they get implants in their arm.
Yeah.
And those are the body dysmorphia people. They get implants in their chest. Oh, it's so weird, man.
I got a question. I don't know where this conversation is going, but I did want to mention something to you guys and ask you, speaking of bodybuilding and body dysmorphia and just weird. So the new Netflix docuseries Arnold is out. Have you guys seen this yet? Have you watched the big, heavily promoted Arnold documentary, 3-part series, James?
No, but I am a big fan of this man and his story and all the details that surrounded. This is a movie that I couldn't wait for it to be made, and I knew it was gonna be made, and I figured they were gonna wait till he died before they made it so they could be really honest. So my apprehension, even dealing with this, is, are they slow rolling the ugly stuff because he's still alive?
No, it's him. It's him talking directly to the camera about everything.
Pumping Iron.
What's that?
How does this compare to Pumping Iron? Did you ever see?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And trust me, episode 1 covers a lot of Pumping Iron. It covers a lot of him in Austria and how. Okay. So here's my point. I would say watch it. He's an absurdly inspiring man. He is so fascinating. And this documentary was made by the same people who did I don't know if you all remember the HBO docuseries from a couple of years ago that focused on the relationship between Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine and how they created Beats headphones and became billionaires together. Did you see that? I forgot what that was called, but it's the same production. It's the same producers and directors who made that. So the Arnold doc is in that style, and that style was excellent. So anyway, here's the point. They cover a lot of Arnold's early days in the bodybuilding world. Okay. Now, he didn't talk about it, but they show a lot of footage from 70s bodybuilder guys and all of this stuff. I'll put it to you this way. There were a lot of wealthy Hollywood producer guys who were paying Arnold and his muscle friends to run along the beach in Speedos and stuff. And Arnold and his muscle guys were getting a lot of invitations to Hollywood. My point is this. That 1970s Southern California Gold's Gym Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron muscle beach scene was very gay. There was a whole lot of homoerotic stuff. And poor Arnold, he broke out of it. He used it as a means to an end. That was his platform. That's how he got noticed. So God love him. But he never goes near any of that. And this documentary just shows scene after scene that is so homoerotic, featuring.
But if you're gay, I always feel like that if you're gay and if you're a dude that's into dudes, like, isn't that the pinnacle of the world? Isn't that like the Playboy Mansion would be Muscle Beach on Venice?
Right? Well, yeah. And I guess it was. But here's the thing. Okay, so he just, I don't know. He's such a man. He is such a masculine guy, and it's like, I guess here's my takeaway. I don't think he noticed. I think he was so driven that everything was a means to an end to making him the biggest global superstar on the planet. I mean, that's why it's so inspiring to watch this guy and hear him tell his story. I mean, he came here as a guy who didn't even speak English, who was told he was ugly. And he said to everybody, I'm going to be the biggest box office. And he did. He became that. But I don't think he knew. I'm wondering, did Arnold do things with guys and just, totally didn't even realize that? Because there's all kinds of pictures of Arnold flexing for other men. And then you'll see, like, in the background, like a creepy old gray-haired, like, white man giggling with glee as they're oiling Arnold down. And it's just like, who's that guy? Why is he allowed to be so close and to watch the oiling up? And why is he enjoying it to such an extent? It's very good. It's called Arnold. It's called Arnold. It's on Netflix. I think it debuted last week. So this was the first big weekend for it. It's, trending like number one. It's three like 1 hour episodes. I watched the first one.
I always thought that's funny, that the difference in Arnold's situation and some of these other situations, like if you take a Jason Momoa or a Ryan Reynolds or any of these other classically sort of handsome masculine dudes, chicks love them, fall all over them. And as part of that, if you're going to be a Jason Momoa, you're naturally going to have a giant fan base in the gay sector as well, that, you don't prefer it, but it just comes with the territory. And hey, it's kind of nice. It's flattering there, right? But as you go down the handsome scale, but still masculine, and you turn into like the Arnold genre,
right?
It's like the chicks aren't that crazy about you, but these old creepy gay guys love you.
He's invited to a lot of late night hot tub parties in the hills, I'm guessing. Brady says during the documentary, Brady saw it. He says he even talks about how his dad was worried because he had posters of oiled up bodybuilders instead of women on his walls. They show a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger's teenage bedroom. They actually have a picture of it. And yeah, if I was his dad, I'd be like, oh, my kid's gay. Because it was just like half naked men all over the walls, like not a chick anywhere, just like oiled up guys. There's a lot of that in it. It's very funny. It's very funny.
Any thoughts whatsoever? Arnold.
Well, I mean, I need to see it. I haven't seen it. I mean, my thought
I
on
haven't
Arnold
seen it, and I got opinions.
My thought on Arnold is the whole industry, to me, is somewhat homoerotic.
Yeah, well, that was my point. That like the early bodybuilding, I think it was propelled into mainstream success because of a breakout star like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a 4-time Mr. Olympia, and he started doing Merv Griffin in the talk shows, and he was a curiosity because he was the muscle from Brussels, or you know what I mean? He was that guy. Or what was he?
Austrian.
The Austrian something, I don't know, whatever. But he was a novelty during the 1970s. Like he would be on like all the daytime talk shows, and no one ever gave him any credit for what he was about to become, for what he would eventually. They all just sort of dismissed him as like this silly, dumb muscle boy. It's really an inspiring story. It's a great story because he's a truly smart man. He's a really smart and conniving guy.
Well, I think the difference between him and say like a guy like Lou Ferrigno, he was the other version, right? And he was the other version of what they tried to do with the bodybuilder in movies. Obviously, he was a little bit more challenged because of hearing and stuff like that. But still, I mean, he never really got to the level of Arnold in terms of roles and capability.
No, he was also deaf, though. He did have kind of.
Well, that's why I said the hearing thing kind of he had to overcome it.
But Arnold didn't speak English. James, you mentioned Pumping Iron. Do you remember how subservient Lou Ferrigno was to Arnold Schwarzenegger in Pumping Iron? Like there was a.
Hang on, Lou Ferrigno was deaf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't dawn on me.
That's why he has that speech impediment.
Now that you say it, yeah. Duh.
So in the Pumping Iron, one of my favorite scenes is where Arnold Schwarzenegger is walking by as Lou Ferrigno is posing, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, this young Lou and young Arnold, and Arnold walks, and they show this in the Arnold documentary, and he walks by him and he says, looking good, number 2, Lou. You're looking like number 2. Why is that, Lou? And Lou Ferrigno goes, "'Cause you're number 1, Arnold." It's just like so subservient. Everybody in that gym just bowed down to the 4-time Mr. Universe. He was funny, and he took advantage of it. Come on, and that's where the whole "pump you up" comes. Those characters in Saturday Night Live.
Dude, so I knew the Saturday Night Live skit long before I saw Pumping Iron, and when I saw Pumping Iron, I was like, "Oh, that's Hans and Franz. That's Hans, Franz. That sounds very Austrian. Duh. Yeah, that's exactly where it came from. Isn't that great?"
Mm-hmm. All right, so I got one thing that I wanted to ask really quickly, and so tonight on CNN they ventured into the world of town halls again, and they brought up Chris Christie, and he.
Can I put one more bow on the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh yeah.
Because my defining Arnold Schwarzenegger monologue is the Bill Burr one. Have you heard this one?
No.
Because he did all that, and we just got started, and he married a Kennedy.
Oh yeah, married a Kennedy.
Very much. I here from Los Angeles. I live in Hollywood. There's a ton of plastic surgery out there. A lot of people getting I don't know if you guys have those up here. Those awful ones where people start to look.
Yeah, let me see a forward to where it says he's
to the top of facelift ever. All right, and a couple times during the night she took it out. You're an idiot. Stick out your arm. Just never got. Really? You're gonna. Schwarzenegger just got busted.
There we go.
Down on the States, yeah. That poor bastard, huh? Jesus Christ. Another great man. Another man brought down by another gold-digging whore. No? Whoa. You don't think so? You don't think that was really? 3 decades of movies? Bangs one made and now you don't like them? Tell you something, man. He is. First of all, I get why he did it. Why wouldn't he think he could get away with it? Look at his life. Look how he's... That guy should be unloading trucks in Transylvania. That should have been the height of his success. But because he's a great man, he had the balls to move to America and became famous for lifting weights. I lift weights, no one gives a shit. He stands there, people can't get enough of it. That should have been the height of his success. He says, fuck that, I'm gonna be an actor, despite the fact no one can understand me. Becomes one of the biggest actors of all time. That should have, fuck that, I'm marrying a Kennedy. Bam, he does it. He becomes governor of a state he can't even pronounce. Why wouldn't this guy think he could bang his maid in his own damn bed and not get away with it? This guy has been in the zone for 4 decades. Give me the rock, I'm feeling it. I had a hit movie with a midget. This is a layup. I don't even need a condom. You guys are great, thank you very much.
All right. So I wanted to ask this question. I was watching the Chris Christie CNN town hall this evening, and I couldn't get past one. It doesn't matter what he says, whether you're a Chris Christie guy, I don't know, he's going after Trump. Hey, how exciting. Here's my issue. Is Chris Christie too fat to be president of the United States? He is an extraordinarily heavy-set man, and I don't believe that we have ever had a president this large. He's got about a 46-inch waist. Now, here is my question. I don't think that anyone can be too fat to be president, unless, of course, they're rolling around Walmart in one of those electric scooters. That should probably not. But, I mean, I guess my question is this, not necessarily us. I'm asking you guys to tell me, can the American public get past a guy's waistline when push comes to shove in the ballot box? James?
No. Not this much. Not this much. Because Chris Christie, look, we did have a fat ass president, Howard Taft. And
no. Just go back to Nixon. It doesn't matter. TV's different. It's all different. Like, you know what I mean? Go back to 1970.
No, I agree. But
Trump was the fattest president, and now this guy, if he were to be president, he would be the biggest president. Clinton was heavy, but
there's a few other weird things though. Since Howard Taft, we also haven't had a president that has had any facial hair.
Yeah, the beard, no beard,
no mustache.
Right.
Like mustaches were on almost all presidents up until. Anyway, go ahead, E. Sorry.
I just think, what's the difference between Trump and Christie?
About 70 pounds.
Yeah,
I mean, they're in striking range of each other, though. I mean,
I don't think so. Trump is a very heavy man. Trump is pushing 300 pounds, but he's tall. Christie is like, this is a 400-pound man. I could not get over looking at his waistline while he was on stage tonight. And I'll be honest, I like a lot of what he says. I love a lot of what he says, but I couldn't get past. I could get past it, but I couldn't get past the thought, can America get past that?
No.
See, I think when you look at Christie, he's been that guy for a long time. If you look at Trump is kind of morphed into this fat person.
Like a late line.
Like there's pictures of Trump 20 years ago where he doesn't even look close to the size he is now.
Trump used to be a handsome man. If you look at pictures of Donald Trump in 1985, that was a handsome dude. That guy was tall. He was thin. He had a good head of hair.
And then you gain 2 pounds a year for 30 years.
Probably, right?
I give Trump a much bigger pass on. Oh God, that's a horrible picture on Chris Christie, because the one thing that blows my mind about Chris Christie is, didn't this guy get a gastric sleeve or a lap band, or he had like some sort of surgery and then he ate his way through it? Like, he overcame a surgical intervention into his fatness, and that seriously, that's too much. Like, if you're that dedicated,
well, now I know. Look, you are a fattest. You think lesser of people who are heavy. You've been clear of this.
With the caveat on, if you're old, and like my parents gained like a pound a year for 30 years, and so now they're 30 pounds heavier than they were when I was a kid, and that doesn't mean crap to me. People that are 400 pounds and eat through a gastric sleeve, hell yeah, I have a problem with that. So yeah, I'm a fattest in that regard.
Okay.
Well, I think, he
is the man who popularized the bypass surgery in America. All those years ago.
Not the gastric sleeve. He could have.
What did you do?
Possibly.
What was your thing?
Lap band, and gastric bypass, and the gastric sleeve.
Can't through that.
Are all different. Well, I mean, the lap band is the most reversible of all of them. In other words, you could have a lap band and have a lap band taken out, and your anatomy would still be intact. With the gastric bypass, that's where they're actually chopping your stomach up, rearranging your intestines, sewing them all back together. And so that procedure in itself has a higher rate of mortality just because of the complexity of the surgery going on. And for somebody that's had a gastric bypass to be able to eat their way past that and maintain Chris Christie's weight, if that's actually what he had, I would agree with you, James. That is a very dangerous, kind of setup inside a person. But to me, what's always intriguing is how Trump hides it so well. You know what I mean? He does not look as morbidly obese as he is until you get to see him without
in his tennis whites.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's or if he's like in a sand trap at the golf course, like somewhere
Well,
where you
he
get
wears very large. He wears, first of all, he has the extraordinarily long tie, which has always been a heavy set man trick. The tie has to go very long because it elongates the entire body. He also wears jackets that are a little baggier. So every time you see him, his suit is baggy. So you're not thinking that he's that fat. You're thinking that that's just a bit of a baggy suit. There are a bunch of tricks that he does in order to hide, his. But if he's lounging around in shorts and like a polo shirt at the club, you could probably see that, yeah, he's a heavy set man. He's like James said, he's an old man who's gained 2 pounds a year for the last 40 years.
But it's like when he's on the golf course, he cannot hide it because now he's just limited to
the suits hide it.
A shirt and some kind of slacks. And then when he gets off angle and, he's kind of bent over, well, he can't hold up the blubber. The blubber's kind of sagging down and it's pushing all around. So that's where I go, in terms of physical whatever, I think they're both in the same boat.
Similar.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that people are so quick to make obesity a deal breaker in the presidency, but just other things they're willing to overlook.
No, I have that
from being president, but no, we're gonna overlook that because fat guys are bad. But
right, and I have that cognitive dissonance too, because in my head, the guy that has like the perfect set of policy positions that would make this country better versus the guy that has a bunch of policy positions that would make this country worse. This dude's a fatty and this dude's in shape. Shouldn't matter. Shouldn't come into it at all. But I'm one of the idiots that it does, because I judge people like that, and we all kind of do, because we all just assume both of them are lying to you. And so how do we judge these people? And it shouldn't matter, and it really doesn't matter. But it's gonna matter when people go into the ballot box, and if you're 4 bills, that makes it harder to be president.
I agree, and it's even more comical that there's actually a doctor for the president that's referred to as his doctor that then comes out and writes a letter stating that guy's in good health. I mean, you're neutered from the get-go if you're Trump's doctor. What are you gonna say? Oh, he's a fat, obese slob that needs to lose 75 pounds and he's our president?
But proximity to power always corrupts. So you can get anybody to say anything. If you're the president of the United States.
But would you want to be the physician? Would you want to be that person who's his doctor?
I would trade places with the White House physician right now, E. Yes. God damn yes, I would. Are you kidding? That guy makes a lot more money than me. I'd be the White House.
That's what it's about. So it's not about you being a terrible doctor by violating your Hippocratic oath by not actually doing your job, which is to give the honest to God truth about the condition of the president of the United States. You're dishonoring it. Okay, so you have no honor, but the paycheck is good. That's what you're saying.
Well, if I get
that's what he's asking, right? Essentially, that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If I turn down the job or get shot off into the surface of the sun or whatever, they were just going to find another guy that will do the same lie. So if they're going to stick some guy in there that's going to act the part, I can be an actor and I can play the part. And it would be much better for my wife and my kids' future if I can make more than I made last year.
So because nobody else has honor, because others are dishonorable, you feel that you may as well be dishonorable.
See, and I'm not trying to make this about politics, but this is the guy, okay, who could make you run from any profession that you have, because the way that he'll spin it, you're either going to accept his spin on it or you're fired. I mean, it is the world according to Trump, and he's gotten to live his life as if he was that reality show.
Tell you what,
I hate this conversation. Can we move on?
Let me make
Tomorrow's gonna be a big Trump
think
day.
about today.
Now, look,
he's got.
If you're so worried about the moral conundrum, make a few $1 million, quit, and then do an expose. You can do a 8-part series on Netflix where you tell the truth and expose and change the world for the better. But in the meantime, my kids get to go to college. How about that? Because right now they are not on the path for college. They're not on the path for community college
So manufacture meth. I mean, if how you make your money isn't of any importance to you, if honor doesn't play a principled role in your life, just, go ahead, make meth and sell that. That'll put your kids through college too.
See, I think he's gonna. He's now
It's so
gotten
easy
to the
for me
point.
to take these positions when I have nothing invested. I
Well,
don't give a shit if James wants to become a corrupt White House physician. Yeah, you
No.
go ahead.
But if I was going to
well, I'm just.
cooking meth isn't a guaranteed, path to getting my kids to college because you go to prison, you get shot by the cartel. There's all kinds of
Oh,
negative
yeah. You paying
consequences.
attention to American politics these days?
Well, yeah, but I mean, above and
Dr.
beyond.
Fauci thought he was going to have a pretty easy retirement too, and that didn't really work out for him. So yeah, no, it's dangerous, is what I'm saying. Anything in the White House these days is dangerous.
No, anything associated to him is dangerous. Being his representative is a dangerous job. Whether it's as an attorney, his doctor, his insurance person, his banker, anybody that represents that guy is in for a neutering. You either see it in some people or you don't. This is somebody who basically is the leader of whatever it is he does.
Look, you either see it or you don't. Let's move on. You're absolutely right. You either see it or you don't. Hey, Pat Sajak is leaving Wheel of Fortune. How about that for a hard right turn, kids? Hang on. When was the last time you watched Wheel of Fortune, James?
Probably about 4 months ago.
When was the last time you watched Wheel of Fortune? When was the last time you saw it?
I can't. Well, actually, I was cruising by a TV the other day and I did see it.
At a retirement home?
I could not tell you if Pat Sajak was on it or not.
Well, my situation is exactly what you would guess, Pugs. I was at my parents' house, where my dad's like 70.
That's what I was looking for. I was looking for somebody to say the last time I was, because that's the last time I saw it was when
you got it.
Mom's
That's
house.
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. I was at Dad's house, my mom and Dad's house, and it was on because they left it on the NBC affiliate so they could watch the local news, and then the Wheel of Fortune comes on after it. So
it's okay. So let me just talk a little bit. The longest running game show in history, Pat Sajak and Van is like 70 now. It's like, what do they do?
Longer than The Price is Right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think so. Maybe. Well,
Wow.
Yeah, maybe not. But I know it's one of the longest. I know it's the most successful game show in history. I know that the syndication expense for this, because of where it found its home, what James just said, all across the country, this show has found its home between the 5:30 or 6:30 national news and the following local news. So it sandwiches right there, or 6:30 Central Time is where it airs for us. So it's right after the 6 o'clock local news and just before the start of prime time. And typically that's when a lot of old people are sitting there watching their habit station, whatever it is they watch for their local, eating their dinner. And so it gets a lot of eyes on it, not a lot of young eyes. I mean, it's, I think the average viewer of Wheel of Fortune is probably 70, that might be being generous. But here's always been my issue with it. It's a stupid game. It is like why? I mean, I believe that the success of Wheel of Fortune is simply because of where it was slotted. You could have slotted any number of other game shows that we don't even talk about anymore that have completely fallen by the wayside. The game, what do you think of the actual game? It's Hangman. It is a stupid Hangman game. I don't find it particularly compelling. I don't find it as interesting as Jeopardy. But Jeopardy's they've got their lockdown mid-afternoon slot. James, any thoughts on Wheel of Fortune?
Well, Wheel of Fortune is something that I was away from for a long time, and when I have been reintroduced to it in the last few years, hanging out with my geezer parents, there have been a lot of innovations and evolutions into Wheel of Fortune that I had missed until recently. And so they have these different categories of puzzles that I didn't understand until I saw them a few times.
Everything is a thing, James. Everything. Here's your clue. Thing. Well, everything under the God's sun is a thing. Can you narrow it down a little bit more? It's so frustrating.
They have some of these, like the start of the answer is a movie title, but the end of it's an author, right? So it's like, so what? Stephen King of Saudi Arabia or something? I don't know. But also what I've noticed in the Wheel of Fortune over the years is I think Pat Sajak and Vanna White have completely lost interest. And and one other thing that this was really the biggest change Wheel of Fortune made in my lifetime is it used to be an analog game where Vanna White would walk through and she would physically flip over the tile so the letter would show up and the letter would be there. And then sometime around 2000 or so, it was just a TV screen and she would touch it and it would go from being blue to the letter. And at that point, I was like,
give it a touch screen.
Wait, she doesn't need to even be there anymore because her only purpose in existing was to physically flip the letter over. But if we don't need to flip the letters over, she's just there to touch the screen. So
here, let's watch this. This says this is the worst Wheel of Fortune contestant ever. What could that possibly be? Let's see.
She's going to miss an obvious puzzle. That's all.
Another opportunity.
Let's spin, Pat.
All right. That's
L.
Yeah, 4 L's. Pick that up. 4 L. Lay it down right over that London trip down there. Wow.
mythological hero Achilles.
I saw.
Oh, well, that'd be a good idea, yeah.
Mythological hero Achilles.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll solve.
Yeah.
Mythological hero Achilles.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. Dude didn't know how to pronounce Achilles, and he paid the price for it. It's unfortunate.
That's fantastic.
Well, what do you expect? Achilles is a white man.
Jesus Christ. Hey, okay, so the other funny thing, yeah, let me and then this one.
And
So the other funny thing about Wheel of Fortune is I think it has the same sort of gig going on that Jeopardy has, that it doesn't really matter what the format is. Hangman will always be fun to people who are looking for mindless entertainment, and trivia questions, you know, in the format where we give you the answer and you got to get the question. It's just a gimmick. It's just trivia. It's just people flipping over a trivia card and asking you a question and you seeing if you know it. And that will never get old.
I believe that there is a completely different way that people watch these two shows. I think that the the Jeopardy viewer is a very competitive son of a bitch. The guy who watches Jeopardy every day likes knowledge, likes learning new things, thinks they know a lot. That's a big part of how they define themselves, the little trivia stuff that they know. You know, trivia people are weird, man. I used to be one. They're very competitive with, you know, all. So that's the people watch Wheel of Fortune more passively. I think that I saw someone in the chat room say, my mom shouts out the answers from the other room. So, I mean, you don't even have to really be paying. Wheel of Fortune is not highly complex. Jeopardy, some of those questions, especially because of the way they're Yoda'd, you know, you have to like answer everything backwards. You have to pay attention to Jeopardy, and you might find yourself going, oh, wait, I didn't think about that through. So I just think they're two complete, like one is like, I would say that one is for smart people and one is for dumb people. If you want to be super reductive, that's pretty much it. I would say Jeopardy is for smart people and Wheel of Fortune is for dumb people, and never the two shall meet.
My theory, E, am I stepping on you? You got anything?
No.
Okay, so my Jeopardy theory is it's all in the editing. And it's not that these people aren't smart or they don't know the answers or they don't even know them kind of quickly. But every time, like, someone goes, let me think about that for a second. Okay, I'll hit the button. They just cut that part out. And so they ask a question, and all three of these people seem to all be going crazy on their button at the same time. And someone already has an answer, and it's constantly coming. And I just barely thought of the question, and it's all in the editing. I bet the real process by which they film Jeopardy takes about 40 minutes, and they can edit it down to 24 minutes, you know, with commercials and whatever. It's really only 24 minutes of content. And they edit out the part where they're all going, duh. And the parts where, like, when they get it wrong, it looks like they only give them like 6 seconds, but they probably give them like 20 seconds. And they're like, all right, none of you idiots are going to get it. We'll just edit it to make it look like 6 seconds went by. And so I think that's a lot of them where there's probably questions where they ask it and people sit there for 10 seconds before someone hits the button because they want answers. They want content. They want the interaction, but they just want it to seem smarter than it is. So you take out all the dead air and it looks more brilliant than it is.
Here, I've got another one here that I want to show you guys. This is one that I remember. This is a recent major Wheel of Fortune fail. This one made some national news. I think we even may have played it on the show. Here, watch this one.
1 Y.
Okay, so it's
By a bell.
Okay.
An O.
she's cute.
2 O's.
Another feather in your
Yeah, no one's like cap, right?
yeah.
I'll solve.
Another
Okay.
feather in your cap.
Another feather in your hat.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Christopher.
It's not it.
It's so painful watching it. It's painful watching it yourself. You know their family's watching. You know their exes are
650.
watching. You know all their
G.
friends are watching.
No G.
No G.
Thomas.
What are you going to do in your gap? Is that what he thought? A feather in your
Oh, the
gap?
bankrupt got you. Laura, you have another shot at it. You can spin the wheel or try to solve the puzzle.
I mean,
I'll solve.
Okay.
Another feather in your lap.
You dumb little-
New. Although the feather is moving around. Christopher.
All right, look at this guy. Come on, Christopher. You got it.
900.
D.
No, Christopher.
No.
you-
What is B? What is B?
Thomas, I think the wheel.
another feather in
Laura,
your
you have another
dad.
opportunity here.
Dad, right? Okay, Dad. Yeah, hey, thank you.
Is this guy a Danny McBride character? Have you seen this guy? This guy looks like a Danny McBride character.
Kenny
You
Powers.
can spin the wheel. You can try to solve the puzzle. What do you want to do? Go ahead and spin if you don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead and
yeah,
spin.
don't get buzzed out here on time.
Your hair curled.
Another feather in your cap.
Well, what letter would you like?
Get a P.
A P.
Oh God, here we
Yes,
go.
there's a P.
He's got it. That's it. He's
You
gonna
already
say
said lap. She's like, I already said
Spin or
lap.
solve?
I knew it was
I
lap.
will solve.
say
Okay.
nap.
Another feather in your map.
Oh jeez, she said nap.
Christopher,
Hi.
it's your turn.
Oh my God, she said nap. Nap. How can we not get this?
Have you ever seen a
Oh
feather
my
in a nap in
goodness.
your life?
The bankrupt got you. Thomas, you have.
What's that, James?
First off, have you ever seen a feather associated with a map in any situation? I mean, I guess since we had like
Quill.
quill plumes, this
Yeah.
is the last time we saw a feather anywhere associated with the map. It's been about 200 years. And I'm glad Christopher bankrupted on this one. He deserved it as well.
Dumbass.
No money. I don't know what you're going to spend. You can try to
I'll
solve-
spin.
So what letter would you like?
A C.
Is there a C up there anywhere? There you go. You want to solve this?
Yeah, I'll solve. Another feather in your cap.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Well, you had 500.
the guy that chose D
What was he thinking?
was another feather in your
I
dad?
don't know what he's thinking.
Like that. What could you have come out with?
I don't know.
App?
You had four openings. Your was one, in was another one, and then you had two around A. So you throw in a D. D's not going to go with the DN. D's not going to go with the YOUR. D's only going to go with DAD. The guy really thought there's a saying, another feather in your dad. What?
What? I don't know. Those people are funny. Yeah, I mean, you compare that to
The first
I
one,
was-
she said hat.
ah,
There was a
Almost
T
an
already
acceptable
there.
mistake.
There was already a T.
there's already a T.
Another T.
All right, that's gonna do it. This car is coasting across the finish line on fumes. Sorry, I got nothing else I can say about Wheel of Fortune other than Pat Sajak. As an alumni of my university, I wish you Godspeed. I think just for a moment, let's talk about Pat Sajak's career. Man, this dude wanted to be like a news anchor. Like he wanted to be a serious news guy. And he had hoped that maybe if his career had topped out, he might be the lead 10 p.m. anchor in San Diego, or something like that. Dude begrudgingly went on an audition for a game show and became Pat Sajak of Wheel of Fortune. I mean, we're talking about he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. When he was going to leave like 20 years ago, they gave him a big chunk of the show. Like he's like an owner of that now. What a guy. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, this was a guy that
Yeah, and I don't think when I try to explain to my non-broadcasting friends how we all just have wet dreams about being a game show host, like it just like that, or being a sportscaster, like where you just have no pressure, you can't screw
or a
up.
weatherman, even a weatherman. We all want to be weathermen, big, big market weathermen.
Right, and you get to go out there and you get to be funny and have a personality, but not half of the world hates you and stuff. That'd be great. I always thought, look, can I just shoehorn this in here? I always thought what they should have done with Wheel of Fortune is so one person wins out of 3. The other 2 contestants have to the wheel would turn Flash Gordon. Right? So when you're fighting on the disc, and so the 2 people that didn't make it to the final, you throw whips out there, and so that disc would be Wheel of Fortune. Just imagine it has all like the numbers and the dollar amounts on it and stuff, right? And it has the can come up, and of course it needs to be over like lava or something to despair or whatever.
Yeah, I think the network might have a problem with that.
The network's impeccable.
Okay, Flash Gordon. The movie was terrible then. It's terrible now. Flash Gordon.
Anyway, that was my suggestion. If there's any producers of Wheel of Fortune watching, if you want to keep this thing going, you might want to adopt some of my recommendations.
Sure. And also, maybe take another pass through Game of Thrones. They had a lot of interesting ways to resolve conflicts in Game of Thrones. You could also,
Trial by combat.
Yeah.
E, did you have something?
No, I'm good.
Oh, were you doing your hand like this? I didn't know if you were.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. That's Parker and that's E. They are part of this whole thing. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for more High Noon with me. Headlines, hot topics, current events, all that good stuff. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Guitar, that is all I need. I don't need no 401, I don't have the greed. Down the road I'll travel